And welcome to the third edition of the 2026 podcast by Make the Adjustment MTA Consultancy. Today's guest is a former colleague of mine. Interestingly, this is probably the first MTA podcast guest that went through my leadership training program probably 15 years ago that became a boss of mine. So this is a pretty cool fun fact. But Brock Bauer is the president of TotalTek, which is a talent and technology solutions firm based in Wisconsin. I've worked with Brock closely, and he's led high growth teams in IT staffing and services for many years. His focus has always been on discipline, partnering with clients, leading people, developing his team, and he's known for practical execution. So Brock, I worked with you formerly at Randstad. I know you worked previously at Manpower. Now you're the president of TotalTek. It's amazing to have someone with your caliber on the show. Thanks for being here, pal.
Anytime. The pleasure is mine, and this should be pretty fun. So
yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And Brock, the one thing I want to start with is, we worked together for a long time. We both grew up in business development and staffing solutions in different companies. It was, you were at Manpower Express, came over to Randstad. I was at Sapphire, became Randstad, and you were there too. But when we worked together at TotalTek, I was on the market looking for something. You were looking for kind of a VP of sales. We started to work together. And what was awesome for me at the age of, almost 50, is I got to learn something new, something called EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. So I want to learn from you, like, how were you introduced to EOS and how did you bring it into TotalTek? And just take me through that whole journey, because that methodology and that framework is incredible. And I think people need to know about it.
yeah. So I was introduced to EOS. So obviously shortly after leaving Randstad and right before or during actually even starting TotalTek, my business partner, Nigel Shaw, who has multiple other businesses and ventures, and that's a whole other story. But we had talked about kind of the infrastructure of how we were going to run the business, and obviously never have building a business myself. I mean, it was first thing was how are you going to start managing these people? We're a remote based business, so talent from everywhere, and kind of putting a structure that people could believe in and a foundation, and they had that in their business. And so it was an easy transition to be able to say, hey, look at EOS. Do you like it? Do you like the flow? How does it work? And that's actually how I got started. Once Sajal had introduced me to EOS and our integrator, I just started with the 10-year plan and I started writing it down. Like, what kind of business was I going to build?
Yeah.
And if you've ever gone through that whole process between what are the things that you believe in, right? And then you get into core values and your core vision and the goals, and then what does that look like? And then that turns into a 3-year picture, right? And then the 3-year picture becomes your 1-year goals, and then your rocks that you build up from there. It was a perfect fit, and I just felt like it was something that could keep us coordinated and keep us on the issues and keep us on the things that were really important, and especially in a remote-based environment. For anybody that's been in a remote-based work versus an office, right? Like the little things that you take for granted of just, seeing people work or answering questions or talking about strategies or what are we working on that we need help with, right? Like all those just things, like you don't get that when you're in a remote environment, right?
Yeah.
So writing those things down becomes very, very important.
And what are some of the things that were true? What are some of the things that were true then that are still true now when it comes to like your core values and vision? Like what hasn't changed since? Because when did you start TotalTek? Was it 8 years ago, give or take? Like when did it start?
July of 2018.
18, so
July
it's called
2018.
7 years ago. Yeah, okay.
Well, we're going to be on our 8th year, right? Well,
8th year.
So let's see. The question was, what hasn't changed?
Yeah, what from the original? Yeah, for the original vision, the original core values. What is the same? I'm curious. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, values never change, right? I think if you're going to be a good leader, you got to stand by the values that you've created, and you've got to hold people to those standards, because if they don't fit your culture, that's going to be very hard to build around. So those will never change. The vision and what we set out to accomplish was I don't think will ever change. That's to be the best consulting, engineering, and technology firm in the world, and we're going to continue to do that on a daily basis. We're going to do that through our people, and we're going to solve issues, and that all kind of builds around the EO system and how we got started, and that will never change.
Yeah. I mean, you've always been a very people-centric leader. You feel, you're connected to your people. You're always asking how they're feeling about things, and just, you've always been very connected. And I mean, obviously you grew up in business development and revenue generation, and we're always a top performer leader in that. And And I believe, especially in staffing and solutions, and I know this to be true, relationships are the most important thing when you're in business development. Well, they're the most important thing in leadership as well. And I think you obviously translated that skill very well because I worked with you and for you, and it's definitely a strength of yours. But before the show, we talk about EOS, and I want you to talk about this. One of the keys that you had said to me prior to the show was, if you can master issue resolution, you've mastered EOS. So just dig into that a little bit in the framework of how important, handling issues is, how you handle issues, how you guys solve issues. Just talk me through that.
Yeah. I think so if I just take one step back, I think the EOS system is phenomenal. What you have to run a successful EOS system is trust. And right, you go through some functionalities of that while you're in the EOS system, right? The pyramid, and you're going to go through trust factors, and the team will grade itself. And so I say the word trust because what I've found, right, is that if there's not a lot of trust in the room, you're not going to have a lot of issues, right? And then if you're not working on issues, you're not fixing the business. And if you're not fixing the business, right, you're going to find yourself to struggle. I have found that if you can create a space that's safe for everybody, because like everybody that's in that room, right? Whether it's your leadership meetings, whether it's your one-on-one meetings, whether it's your practice reviews, whether it's your pipeline reviews, if there's trust in the room, you can say like, hey, I'm having trouble with X. Our process isn't working for this. This doesn't seem right. Is there a better way to do it? This seems super inefficient. Whatever those things are, if you have trust in that room, issues will come out. The second the issues can come out, you can work on resolving them. What is the best approach that I want to take? And then your business is in hyperdrive, right? Because you're solving the things that are going to hold not only potentially your team members back, but it could be, revenue generating. It could be the health of your organization. It could be how your team's working together. So like, I truly believe that is probably the biggest key to issue resolution. You have to have the trust, and then your team will come out with the things and the challenges that are in front of them. And they're not going to feel like whatever that challenge may be and whatever the fix might be for that challenge, that they don't have the space to say it. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. And you executed so well. And I'm going to ask you to go even deeper on psychological safety and trust because it is super important. It's funny, Brock. And when I do leadership team training, I almost always lead some of the first sessions with leading change, psychological safety, emotional intelligence. And so sometimes when clients hire me, they're like, Chris, I hired you to help train my leaders how to delegate or how to hire people, like the tactical parts of what we have to do as leaders. But I'm like, the foundational element of leadership is building trust, building psychological safety, emotional intelligence, self-awareness, all these things. So again, I don't know if you have the formula or it's just organic to you or you learned it. How are the ways you find to build the ways to build trust with your team, especially if you have a new team member, somebody you haven't worked with before,
Sure.
they get dropped into your leadership team. Like just walk me through how you think of
Man, that's a great question. Actually, when you said psychological safety, the first thing I thought of was childhood. Like,
we got to talk about your therapist.
no,
We have
I don't
childhood
want to
trauma
go back
conversations
that
now.
far. There's probably too many scars.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a phenomenal question. I would say the first thing that you can do is obviously you have to get to know people, right? You have to get to know what they want out of life, what they're looking for. You have to know their why. A lot of people love to talk about your why and what it is, but I think you have to know how you can support the things that they want to achieve, right? And whether, that's goal setting or rock setting, right? Just going back to some of that EOS stuff, you can integrate some of that. But I just think you have to be able to get to a human level. Because I guess I have always taken the approach of like, what was my history? What were my life experiences? Who did I find that I wanted to model, right,
Yeah.
my success after? And what were the attributes that I appreciated the most, right? And like, to me, if you have the trust foundation, if you've built those foundational things of what that person needs from you, that makes conflict a lot easier,
Right.
right? Because you know what your ultimate goal
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah.
And where you want to go. So that means disagreements and the healthy nature in which those agreements can take place can drive your business out even further, right?
Yeah.
And I think without that, right, whether you're going back to trust or the foundation of what they want to achieve and how they want to achieve, accountability becomes really difficult, right? And some of those
Yeah.
conversations. So I think you have to know the person. I think you have to know what they want. And then I think you have to have then the ability, those other elements, the ability, the accountability, conflict resolution, all that kind of stuff that goes into let's
Mm.
achieve the same goal.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I would like. I think just spending there's no loss in spending time with people.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There just isn't. So I know like a lot of our leadership team, we're,
Yeah.
a team of 8 and normally we get together in, Southern Wisconsin here and we spend a couple days together. But I think even like, splurging to just to go somewhere to
Right.
kind of get out of it, right? And spend some time together. Those are just something that you can't get around spending time with people.
No.
So
Unless, I mean, I want to unpack this for people because I've been taking feverish notes and, it's fun, Brock, like to work with successful people, contributors, leaders like yourself. I'm always trying to model and figure out like what, the reason I ask these questions, like what are the ingredients? And so there's so many things I want to unpack. Number one, you said something like, the quicker you can get to being open and honest with somebody, you can get to the truth, right? So the quicker you and I can just talk about the actual issue, the better off we're all going to be. That's one. Second thing you said is you get to know them, right? So you make great leaders don't make it about themselves and make it about their people. And if you help your people accomplish their goals, in turn, it helps you accomplish your goal. It's like the paradox of leadership. Make it about them. By making it about them, it actually you end up winning as the leader. You talk about why. Start with why. I mean, I got a bunch of books behind me. Start with why. Simon Sinek, right? You have to
I
understand their
didn't see
why.
that.
Yeah, you have to do that. And then the last thing that I know you, because we've been pals and friends both inside of work, outside of work, the informal time is critical. So there are some companies I work with, Brock, and leaders, right? They're high D's on the disc, dominant. They drive them, they drive them, they drive them. And results are good. And people are, generally happy because they're winning, but it's not as much fun. And they don't really know their boss. And so I really like to encourage leaders to spend some of the informal time with their people, whether it's a dinner or a lunch or a coffee or just get out of the office. Yeah.
So I can tell you, right? Like I've had people. I just had somebody I think a week ago. I think there was something about. I'm glad you can laugh at yourself and that you take time to get to know, something I'm interested in because maybe I sent a silly text or you know what I mean. Just
Yeah.
something that to see what people were doing or to make a call if somebody's. I just to me, Chris, to care about people is something that you can't fake. And I think the things that I've grown up in my life has like I just care about the moment. I care about my people. People are going to be the thing that grows your business. And if you can't spend time getting to know their things,
Yeah.
what are you doing? You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
Who are you leading and what are you leading? And I'm just not my personality is not to be like this is the way it's going to be because that's not where the greatest ideas are. Our people are going to be the driving force behind the great things that we accomplish as an organization. To be able to bounce ideas off each other, right? You know what the leadership meetings are like, but to have open forum and to say like, here, we're going to do a SWOT analysis. What are the things that we do really well? What are the things we don't do really well? And then what are the things that are going to take us in the future to keep building on this organization? I had somebody ask me today, like, what does the future really look like? And I was like, well, I don't know the answer to that,
I just know we're going to
but
grow. That's what I
is it
know. Yeah.
focus on, and I know
Yeah.
that we're gonna keep talking about how do we grow these lines of service and what are the things that we can do to make them more efficient so that we can keep pushing the fortitude of what we can offer our clients, to keep them as relevant and as profitable as possible. Um, so, I mean, I think those things are all attributed to, just you spend time with people, you care about people, you have the ability to push them and ask them to do things that maybe they wouldn't do otherwise. They also have the ability to see what it could mean for their family and for others that are around them,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm just a big believer that, right, there's a mental part, there's work, there's the physical, and then just the human element to you know, making somebody really enjoy a job or
Yeah.
life. Like those are just good foundational
Yeah.
pieces.
No, it's awesome. And it's funny, our old boss, Bob Dickey, used to tell me, because I remember asking him the same questions. This great advice for leaders. You just talked about it. When your people come to you and you're in a growth organization, hey, what's next for me? The answer I was taught, that Bob taught me to give people, is, look, we're going to go from, right now TotalTek is driving, X amount of $1 million. We're going to go from X million to Y million. We're going to go from 20 or 30 to 50 or 100, whatever the number is, right? I don't know what the jobs are going to be. I don't know what the org chart's going to look like. We're going to grow. And if you want to be a part of that, I want you to be a part of it. And so you might be a part of it as an individual contributor in sales, where you just keep selling and making a bunch of money. That's great. If you want to be in leadership, there's going to be those opportunities. If you want to be in some sort of other operational role like training or something, that's going to exist at some point. So I don't know what it looks like yet, but it's going to get there. And if you're willing to go on the ride, just, hitch your wagon to me, because we're going.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, like, listen, I couldn't agree more. I think that it's so hard, right? In a short 8-year period, we've gone from 5 employees to 151 employees. Like,
incredible. Yeah.
it and to be honest with you, the first thing that always comes up is there's another issue about how we're going to build out and manage, because everybody is bombarded and working 50, 60 hours a week, and right, and that's
Right.
just
Yeah.
long term not the most sustainable piece
Sure.
for that
Sure.
burnout and other things that you
Sure.
talked about, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Bob is I love Bob
Great
to
blast in the past. Yeah.
yeah, man. I mean, I remember going back to president's clubs and putting, we had, one of my favorite memories, actually, there's probably two. I don't know if I can say one.
Of course you can. Oh, you can. PG-13. Yeah. PG-13.
Yeah, right, right. One of those memories, and this is it's just funny. We had like this little board. It was like almost like a shortened. Do you know what a boogie board is? Like the
Sure.
thing that
Yeah.
you lay down and go down a wave.
Yeah.
We had this like kids boogie board, and it was like of Elsa. And we were passing beers. We would get beers. We'd put them on the
On the boogie
platform.
board. Oh
They
my
would
God.
push them out to us, and Bob and I were going back and forth.
Bud Light
Great
Bob.
guy, great mentor. We still text and talk every now and
Of
then,
course.
probably not as much as I'd like, but I think
And by the way, people need to understand, both you and Bob are like 6'2", 6'3", big dudes, and you're passing this Elsa boogie board back and forth. So that's pretty funny
pretty
right there, actually. Yeah.
it is pretty funny. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's probably people that make fun of us. But I think he's right. Like, listen, like, I don't know. I'm gonna watch people step up and take on responsibilities. We have somebody right now that started in HR for us, and we've just made her our internal COO
Amazing.
because she's phenomenal at just first servicing the people, right? So not forget just doing the job. Like, she can do the job, but she can also go above the X and O's to understand a problem and then look at it how we efficiently fix that problem,
Yeah.
and has the customer service to be able to go through all levels of the organization, right? So it's like now she's setting a standard for us in that way, right? For just different processes and procedures that we have to improve upon. So, like, I think it's just a perfect example. And I'm like, listen, like, as an owner, I would love to promote from within. I think there's a healthy balance between promote from within your organization, the people that have been there, that have been through the grind, that started when there was no marketing material and there's no business processes. You don't have a CRM. You don't have the right. Like, it's like people don't understand what it's like to build all of that, right?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
want to see people step up and take on those responsibilities, but also just be comfortable in what they're doing. And like, they're great employees all the way around. Doesn't matter if they just stick with what, a sales process or a recruiting process, or if they're, an ABAP developer in SAP, if they're one of our lead engineers in the consulting practice, like, it just doesn't, but to see people step up and to see like them grow into different things. I mean, this is the situation that I gave you is somebody that started with us 2 years ago, and we had no HRIS system,
Wow.
right? So we
Yeah.
had to install an HRIS system. We had a timekeeping system that didn't work, that we then integrated with our HRIS system. She took all of those responsibilities on after a 10-year career kind of in, manufacturing space. And then all of a sudden here we have a fully functioning HRIS system, where we had self-insured benefits, right, for a while. And then like that was just a rough process. So, now it's like, we have, big insurance company that the benefits for our employees, and just like being able to do all that and deliver all that to the employees.
Yeah.
So it's super cool, man. And it's super cool to see other people. I actually now more enjoy watching other people succeed,
Right.
because it's just something really cool.
Well, again, another great, leadership trait you have, which is hire people as smarter than you, let them do their job, right? It's like we don't have all the answers as leaders, and you want to hire talented people, and it's so much fun to see them grow. You hire like a mid-level-ish, let's call it mid-tenured person, and they execute so well. You're like, yeah, we're going to promote you. So that's awesome. That's really cool. That's good stuff. What,
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah, I would always rather be the present giver versus like, "Hey, I got the coolest present."
y-
That's
yeah,
just always been I think you're kind of like one or the other. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
you like seeing your work, people succeed. I'm gonna be totally like that's to me, I think one of the biggest thing and reasons that I feel like I was just kind of put on this planet. The things that I've learned, the things that I've gone through in growing up to going to college, and kind of getting out of small town USA, to going to college and to kind of my sports background and what you learn in team environments and challenges to getting your first job, to watching others succeed. Like I do feel like there was part of that light. What drove me to this career and to start my own business was what was the next corporate job that I was going to get that I could really impact people's lives.
yeah, yep,
And I couldn't find the answer. And so when I had, a business partner who is one of my best friends
yeah,
and I've known for, I don't know, 1997,
yeah,
since then, and like I mean, just insanely successful human being, but going to him with a concept and an idea of like, hey, I want to start a business. Do you think you'd be interested in that? And it, like without
didn't
hesitation,
hesitate. Yeah,
Yep. All right. See you later. Off and
right,
running. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
um, I think the ultimate thing that drove that was my want to impact people. Because
yeah,
I think some of those things in corporate environments get taken out of your control and
yeah.
who you want to do business with and how you want to do, you know what I mean? Like, and then
So, oh
that's
yeah.
it's those
Well,
environments.
there's so much to unpack here because you had us. So let's go all the way back. You were a quarterback at Ripon College. You have that experience as a leader. Leading a team, very career in corporate America, and like Brock. I don't know if you know the stat, but men between the age of 40 and 50 listening, the number one reason we become entrepreneurs is we are tired of being micromanaged. And so, shocking. I'm not speaking for you. I'll speak for myself. I left corporate America, quote unquote, just because, you and I had some bosses previously that started to drive us crazy. And so, but what you also, the second thing is for entrepreneurs, I think it's really important to know, for Brock, you were an expert in business development. You were an expert in technology services. You had like levels of expertise. It's really hard to be an entrepreneur and start something unless you're an actual expert and competent. So for entrepreneurs out there, hey, you're 22 years old, you have this idea. Well, 10,000 hours to mastery. Like go master something first, right? And then you want to be an entrepreneur age 27, 28, knock yourself out. But you have to have that level of experience. But the second most important thing I think that you said, it's very mission based. Like you just have to love it. And I know you work really hard, but I know there's, hopefully a lot of days it doesn't feel like work because you actually really enjoy it and you enjoy the people. And so I just think it's worth highlighting the fact that you started something from zero. You guys are driving, tens of millions of dollars in revenue and you aspire to get to 100 or whatever it is, but it's not that. That's not the reason. Like I know the reason is deeper than that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like if you were to say what is my why? And I can tell you unequivocally, right? Like for me growing up was, to watch, individuals in and around me struggle at times, right? That doesn't just mean financially, but I think, all together there were, it's a small town. It's, there's how much motivation is there to what are you accomplishing and like what are you doing in life? And I think I just felt like the first thing that I needed to correct for myself is I needed to be 100% independent on myself, to take care of myself, to be able to financially provide for myself, to be the person that was going to be responsible. And I think, from there, love my family to death. I have an amazing family. There's tons of love. Like, but I wanted to be able to, eventually say like, okay, is there a time and a place where like I might have to have a big impact on their lives?
Yeah.
And so control is the first part of it, taking my situation in my own hands. And then therefore, going through all the hardships that you go through. I'll never forget. I had a wedding my sophomore season. The coach, I asked the coach if I could take off because one of my best friends from home was getting married. He said yes because that was like our big inter squad scrimmage, right? Red versus white and all these, and it's like my sophomore season. I'm competing to be the starting quarterback, right?
Mhm.
And he said, "Yes." He's like, "I want you to know something. You're the starter." Shout out to Ron Ernst. He's like, "You're the starter. Go enjoy your one of your best friends. I was the best man in his
Mm.
wedding, and then come back and let's get ready to rock and roll this year." It was that week. I got back. It was Tuesday install. If those of you that know football a little bit, Tuesday install. Start practice on Wednesday. We're honing some things. I'm rolling out, and I kind of take off down the sideline. I look down. I just have a weird misstep. I look down and my foot's pointing like
Ah,
this.
yeah.
And I was like, oh no. It was just kind of that, like all that a moment. I dislocated my ankle, needed 3 screws and surgery on my peroneal tendon. And I think it's like, God, it was like something I had built and worked so hard for, and it was like taken away. And I was like, okay, wow. You could sit there and you could get frustrated and you get mad at whoever, right? And the ground and God or whatever it is.
Mm.
And I just think like there's all those other situations in life that I was just like, okay, what's next? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what am I gonna do? Right. And I'm not saying there wasn't a period of time where I was like frustrated and down and some of the rest of it, but I think it what it did for me is like there's always gonna be things in life. How I got started is like I'm literally thinking like, oh my God, I'm 40 years old and I'm gonna start over. Like, do I have this? Do I really
Yeah.
have what it
Yes.
takes to start over? And I
Yes.
think it's like those moments you look back to and you're like, well, if you
Yeah.
did that and then you came back and then you started for 3 years, right? After you got a medical red shirt and you broke a bunch of school records and like, you know what I mean? Like I saw that was a phase, and like then it was okay, I'm gonna be really successful at whatever career's in front of me and try to and then it was okay, like now are you gonna really start over? Like are you gonna really do this? And I think it's those situations that obviously are the reasons I guess I am who I am and why I wanted to start my own business and why I
Right.
really wanted to impact, people and people around me. And I think too, like to give a shout out to, two of my best friends who started a different company, right. And one of my business partners, like seeing their relationship as far as like them and their employees and what it meant to them. And it's like doing something and building something together was like that made it worth it. It was worth the risk.
Right.
Go out and do that.
It's awesome. And thanks for sharing that story, man. I know it's deeply personal and I know getting injured was not fun. I too was injured in college and it's a huge setback. But again, unpacking it, you're articulating one of the things I've always looked for, especially in business development professionals and leaders, is the ability to overcome adversity. You know, I do behavioral interviewing and I teach behavioral interviewing in my practice. And if I was interviewing you, not that I'm not, one of the questions would be, "Hey, Brock, tell me a time when you had a setback in your life, something, that set you back and what happened?" And I just let people tell a story. If you told me that story, I'd be like, "You're hired." I wouldn't even get through the other questions. I'd be like, "That's all I need to hear." Because if you can overcome that level of adversity, come back and not just come back healthy, but come back and excel. Um, that tells people everything you need to know about your character and because in behavioral interviewing, as I teach, when somebody tells you a story like that, whatever they've done in the past is exactly what they're going to do in the future. And so I've also asked people, Brock, this question like, "Hey, tell me about a time you had a setback." And people are like, "Well, I got a splinter once," and they tell me some softball story. I'm like, "That's it? Like that's the biggest adversity? Like that's what we're talking about?" Like, so I want to hear that story, and
Yeah.
and again, and tagline of my company is "Make the Adjustment." I'm curious about overcoming adversity and things like that, adjustments you've made when it comes to like your leadership style, like maybe things that, or somebody you were in college as a quarterback and obviously effective, but things that you've learned along the way, adjustments you've made. Talk to me about epiphanies you've had in your leadership journey to make you an incrementally better leader every role you get.
Yeah. Great question. I think the first thing that just popped into my mind, as you said that is like, one of the hard things is you get really close to people, right? If you let them in, right, and you're really interested in some of the care and some of the other stuff that we talked about to build that trust, it becomes really hard to make difficult decisions. Last last year was a tough year for TotalTek, right? You're going to have some of those years where you plateau, and I just think there were things that were very obvious that we need to do as an organization to make the right change. Now, how do you do that? Well, the reality is I owe all 151 people that work here, I owe them that. I have to make that decision to make us a better organization so that plateau stops and we start growing like crazy again. That's where the people that have dedicated, these 8 years and or have come in at any different point in time, right? That's what makes it worth it. It's got to be worth something, right? It's got to
Yeah.
be that blood, sweat, and tears has got to be where that stock price goes up, or where the share goes up, or where we're vaulting into another level of organization, which creates the org structure and the ability for them to move up and to
Yeah.
get promoted and kind of all those things. So, but that can be really, really difficult. And I think you just rely on the things that you learn and you say, we're going to have to do this as an organization. We're going to have to cut this out. We're just not very good at it. Right. And we haven't shown a propensity to be able to change
Yeah.
outcomes. We've, done the EOS process. I do think this, right? There has to be a willingness, especially, right, if you're an entrepreneur, and I'm sure this will
Yeah.
resonate with a lot of people. You have to sometimes do what's not popular
Right.
and what you yourself might not want to do, right? I
Yeah.
didn't want to
No, of course not.
cut out X,
But you
right?
have to. But you have to.
But you have to. You owe other people
Correct.
a better result.
Right.
So,
Right.
did that answer your question? Can
It
I
does. No, 100%. Well, because again, you're talking about two things here. You talk about in EOS, what can you be the best in the world at?
Yeah,
And
I agree.
so there are aspects of your business where you are, and there's others where you aren't. And your seat, I think the lesson you're talking about, the adjustment you have to make is even though you deeply care for people, which we articulated throughout this entire episode, you have to do what's right for the team. And that's one of the hardest things a coach or a president or a CEO has to do is you might have to have some difficult conversations. But I've always believed, Brock, and you probably believe this to be true. If it's not going to work for you here, everybody's probably better off somewhere else anyways. And so even though there's short-term pain in that decision, most people usually land in an as good or better situation, even though there's some short-term pain,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
I agree with you 1,000%. I mean, um, I think that if it's not working, there are multiple reasons why it's not working. It's not just the company, it's not just that person, right?
Right, right,
You could have fit, you could have culture, it could be the wrong,
right,
it could be the wrong lane, it could be the
right.
wrong and just because, like, listen, how many times have I failed in my life? I mean, I can give you, 10 at least, right? Like, I'm being,
Anybody
funny.
who's
A
successful can
lot
give
more
you at
than
least
10,
10.
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
to anybody to think that they don't go through life or, they get let go from a job, it wasn't a great fit. Maybe it wasn't a great leader. Maybe it wasn't a great vision. Maybe you didn't understand how to prepare or whatever the case may be. That to your point, I usually see things for me in people that there's going to be a reason they're not going to be successful. And if that's the case, help them help themselves and just have a conversation. Because
yeah,
usually it's like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. Do you know what I
right.
mean? Like,
I do.
more
Yeah,
often than not, those conversations come out in that way. Yeah, that they're like, yeah, there's a better spot for me to
yeah.
be. So
Listen, man, I have to be sensitive to time for my schedule and yours. I could do this another
absolutely.
hour. So much gold that I can't wait to cut this up and put some shorts together and put it out to the world. But listen, man, I got to tell you, I always said when you know, I'm a few years older than you, and at our previous company,
Well,
I was maybe one level up because I'd been there longer,
absolutely.
and we went through this leadership training experience together that I was responsible for, and I got to know you really well. And one of the barometer questions I've always said for people that are like younger than me, less tenured than me, I always say to people like, "Would you work for that person?" I actually did work for you. I actually did later in life work for you. So I think it's the biggest compliment I can give you is, I want you to share your social handle, your information about TotalTek, because I want people, if they're looking for work, guys, I've worked for Brock. I've worked with Brock. Nobody better, no better leader. Great sector. You guys work in, technology, engineering services. You guys are expanding. You're growing. But just you're just a great guy. I can't thank you enough for doing this. But where can people find you if they would want to connect with you, work with you,
Yeah.
partner with you, if they're hiring, whatever it is?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, just www.totaltech.com. Brock Bauer on LinkedIn. I think I'm pretty easy to find. I'm not as big as you in the social aspects. I try to focus on my people. It's probably something that I could do a lot better. That conversation that you're referencing, first of all, I can't thank you enough for allowing me to come on, but I'll never forget that conversation with you. Is just like, hey, Chris, do you think you could work for me? Because I think you'd be an unbelievable asset here. And it was, it was a yes, and we were kind of off and running. So, thanks for having me, the training, the friendship, the times, spent. And if there's anything ever that I can do, please let me know. And thanks for giving us this platform, and, hashtag go TotalTech. We're
Yeah,
here to
buddy.
take over, man.
No, this is the epiphany of business cards change and relationships don't, man. I value our friendship, our time together working. We've been pals, we'll always be pals. And like you said, somebody I deeply respect. And I do want to get to your TotalTek. If anybody's into philanthropy and charitable giving and you're in the, Wisconsin, Illinois area, Brock and TotalTek have an amazing golf event every summer. Actually plug that real quick, because I've been there once and I want to do it again. Just plug that real quick. What's the date for the golf event this year? And where are you guys going?
22nd. It's the Monday after Father's Day. The coolest story, if I can do it just super quick, is
Please. Yeah.
basically part of the core values at TotalTek is improving the lives of others. This is the number one core value that we hold as an organization. And so one of the ways that we live it is we, as an organization, so this year, all 151 people were invited to nominate a charity. We usually narrow that down to about 5 charities that present to the entire company. After that, the entire company votes on which charity they want to sponsor throughout the year. The company then promotes, or basically recognizes that charity as the charity of the year, right? That we donate all our time and effort, and all of the fundraising and all of the stuff that culminates in the golf outing on June 22nd this year. It's always super cool to see like somebody's charity represented, and
Wow.
then handing them a check at the end of all this. Total Tech doesn't take anything from it. It's a day to celebrate the charity. It's a day to have fun together. There's a concert at the end of it, which is a friend of mine from Nashville that comes in and he blows it out of the water. He's absolutely
Awesome.
insane, and it's just a super cool day. So,
Awesome.
yeah, if you'd like to get involved, please go look at the website. It's under events, and then the first thing that'll pop up is the golf outing. But we have
Awesome.
events throughout the year too. So
No, it's awesome, man. Brock Bauer, president of TotalTek, overall amazing guy. Thanks for taking the time to be on the show today, man. It's been great to see you.
thanks, sir. Have a good one, buddy.
All right, brother.
Bye.